welcome. I'm Abhijit Pandya. I read and I write and I read some more. And today we're going to be looking at Pelican Brief by John Grisham. I have to admit this is my first John Grisham novel. I've seen a lot of movies growing up in the 90s, of course, but I've never read a book, and I did enjoy this book. It was thoroughly enjoyable. What is it about? The Pelican Brief by John Grisham. Well, you've got a guy who thinks he's going to have some oil somewhere in the US, and he takes the, slowly basically gets his rights to get the oil through some various offshore companies and what have you. And a local environmental group takes him to court. The supposed lawyer that they're going to have, dies mysteriously, and the guy does win the court case. But then the environmentalists, decide to appeal. So this chap, the villain, doesn't want to take any chances. So he works out that if the case ends up in the Supreme Court, he might lose. So he knocks out the two Supreme Court justices that are most likely to rule against him. And the idea being that there is a Republican in the White House who will then put ultra-conservative judges to ensure that he does win the appeal should it go through. Now, this killing of two Supreme Court justices is worked out by a student who just happens to be going out with a professor, a law student, goes out with a professor who knows someone in the FBI. So she writes a brief. The brief goes to, the FBI person, and he mysteriously gets killed, and there's numerous attempts to kill the girl who knows about the brief. Meanwhile, in the White House, the president's sort of main researcher or executive man tries to bury anything around this because he thinks that this villain who's killed Supreme Court justices, well, he thinks he knows that the villain was a big donor to the president, so it might harm the re-election campaign that's happening a year later. So basically you have this sort of cat and mouse thing going on where numerous attempts are made to attempt to kill the girl, and the girl basically somehow survives. And it's very exciting, it's good paced, very descriptive compared to some of the thrillers today, which I'll be looking at in other sessions. But no, it packs a good pace, and I think you'll keep going to the end. And like a lot of these thrillers, it builds up pace quite well. And the last third or so, is pretty exciting. I would recommend it. It's an 8-hour read. So normally a weekend, 4 hours in each day. I think at a good pace, that's what it will take you. Pretty good for a plane. I'm very interested in books that I can read on long haul flights. I used to fly a lot, and this could be a good one, for you to take with you. And there's a new edition now. Penguin have done this new cover. I'll just hold it a bit closer so you can have a look at that. So you can recognise it. Yeah, and then John Grisham has obviously a fantastic, successful author. And you'll see in here why that's the case. I'm also reading Chaitanya Charan's Guide to Bhagavad Gita. Now I know that Will Smith and I think Hugh Jackman have been reading Bhagavad Gita on YouTube. I've seen clips on that. This is a guide to the Bhagavad Gita. If you've seen the recent Oppenheim movie, risk out the famous quote about "I am death, I've become death." That's a quote from the Bhagavad Gita, the Indian spiritual text. This is a guide to that text of the various themes in the book, and it's really well written. It's one of the best guides I think there is. Chaitanya Charan does this, who's a well-known expert on Bhagavad Gita, and it's really for people who are stressed. The Bhagavad Gita is all about detachment from things that cause you anxiety and how to get in the right frame of mind, not to get too carried away by life on a day-to-day basis. So I'd recommend this. If you don't have a Bhagavad Gita, you can get one from us. We can give it to you for $1. We're going to subsidise, and this is probably the recommended translation, Bhagavad Gita as it is, by Bhaktivedanta Swami. Of course, spent a lot of time with George Harrison, the Beatle. So that was, I think this was definitely the edition of George Harrison, read quite a few times. So Chaitanya Charan's book, the first lesson is about the difference between living for the present or living in the present. If you live for the moment always everything can unravel. The deeper pleasures in life are about controlling, your desire to gratify your senses and your mind constantly. How to plan each day with a little bit more care, so you're actually squeezing a bit more out of life, and maybe having a plan or a goal, in your life that you can incrementally work to, because human beings are normally a lot happier if they have a sense of achievement every day. They talk about low-hanging wins every day. Do things, write down a list of, I've done these 3 or 4 things, dropped the kids to school, did shopping, then I did a little quick workout, had an extra 2 push-ups or whatever it is. And these things give you a lot of positive momentum and keep you away from negativity. So this is a pretty good book for that. Chaitanya Charan Bhagavad Gita for daily inspiration. I'll probably read bits of this on this Instagram or YouTube channel, and you can really enjoy this. So yeah, that's a recommended one. If you want it on discount, I think it's about $6 US. If you want it for $1, of course, just write in to me and I'll give you a discounted version. I've got quite a few to give out. I don't have an unlimited supply of all this stuff, but I'm happy to kind of get people reading, because reading, of course, as we know, gets rid of stress. Just reading for 6 or 7 minutes a day reduces your stress by 60 to 70%. 68% is supposedly the statistic, 60 to 70%. So reading's really good for you. I'm here to encourage reading and encourage writing as well. But yeah, Chaitanya Charan, Bhagavad Gita, very good. Okay, well, we'll catch up next time, looking at another thriller, comparing thrillers back to back, and we'll see, what you prefer. You can write any comments you want about the thrillers or about anything you see here. Thank you.